I put the post out and I drop my phone. It starts buzzing. Elf, our website's broke. I was like, what? What are you passionate about? What are you good at? What have you been paid to do? What does the world need? In the middle there is what you are in the best position to do. And my dad told me that you should never be anything that anybody else wants you to be. You should always try to be who you are.
He soon saw that most brands were not on the pulse as much as they had thought, to earning a position in social media that allowed his marketing skills to flourish, leading to many more new gym apparel being bought.
I made decisions about life based on Gymshark. You could offer me £1 million, I'd never leave. You could offer me 10 million, I'd never leave.
So you were thinking that if you leave Gymshark, people are not going to care about you?
Yeah, because what you consume determines your trajectory. That is why this whole concept of imposter syndrome exists, is that you are there. You've literally made it, but you don't believe that you should be there. If anybody has the opportunity to be an immigrant, that will be the greatest thing to ever happen to you.
Greetings, I'm Ashley Samuels Mackenzie,
And I'm Charles Parkinson,
and welcome to How I Became,
where we unveil the unscripted journeys of inspirational figures.
Hi, my name is Elfried Samba, and this is how I became the CEO and co-founder of Butterfly Effect.
If you enjoy the show, could you do one thing? Subscribe. Wherever you are, just click the subscribe or follow button. That simple act can help us grow the podcast in a big way, and we need your support to do it. And if you really want to help play a part in our growth, rate us on Spotify or leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It would mean the world. Thank you. Starting off his life in the Congo, we start this guest's life script. Challenges in his home country had him move to Johannesburg and then on to the UK to avoid some ongoing conflicts. Looking around this newfound country, he experienced a range of differences in this new residence and realised it was now up to him to excel at life and grow himself and his intelligence. Graduating and trying to utilise his skills for businesses, he soon saw that most brands were not on the pulse as much as they had thought, to earning a position in social media that allowed his marketing skills to flourish, leading to many more new gym apparel being bought. Now with a mission to have the best party with people that were not meant to be there, who's to guess what is next? Introducing Elfried Samba, ex-head of social for Gymshark and founder of the Butterfly Effect.
You know what? If I ever have a film, right? You're gonna have to be the voiceover for that.
Hey, I'm here.
Yeah. So that gassed me up. That got me ready. Feels like I have to run through a few brick walls now.
Yes.
That's really great.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
That's your life in a poem.
Yeah. It sounds way more almost like beautiful, right? It's always really great when you look at things in hindsight and you're able to summarize it.
Yes.
People think it's always like an upwards trajectory, but really it's like zigzag.
Well, that
over the
zigzag
place.
is what we plan to tell today.
Yeah.
The real story, how
The
it
real
really
story.
goes down. That's what people love about the show, is just hearing how it really is. People
Yeah.
know what life is like. They're living it every day. They know
Yeah.
it's not all roses. And but hearing the great successes and talking of successes, Butterfly Effect,
Yeah.
company you co-founded less than a year ago.
Yeah.
You've already onboarded Netflix,
Yeah. Mm.
McDonald's.
Yes.
Who else?
There's a few really good ones. Let's just say that
WeTransfer.
Yes.
Come on.
Flying.
Let's have a round of applause. First year flying.
Yeah. Thank you. We just keep moving on, man.
And it's an agency, a creative agency.
Yeah, that's where we're at the moment. So the goal that we have that we're fixating it on right now is how do we build a creative house where we bring together the creative Avengers from all different planets and bring them into one roof, and we do some dope stuff. So that's what
Awesome.
we're doing right now, man.
Love that. You're also known and have been described as the mastermind behind Gymshark's huge rise from when you joined, they had around 1 million followers across their social accounts. When you left, how many followers across their social accounts?
20 million.
20 million.
Ooh,
Yeah.
20x.
Yeah. When you start to put it in marketing terms, yeah. I was not, it was a very big team effort. I guess what my responsibility was to build a system and then get people that were way more brilliant than me to come into that system and help us scale. I think that you start to understand the magic that came with Gymshark when you get out of it, which was that everybody was very open-minded. Everybody, we made decisions really, really quickly, and it just made sense, right? We were the consumers, therefore we knew how to communicate as the brand. We knew that we didn't need a ROI number or somebody with a deck to tell us that it was worth doing it. We just did it. And I think because I was able to be in an environment that welcomed, that was aligned with the person that I am, we made some magic.
Awesome. Well, we're going to hear about that magic. We're going to hear, you are obviously an expert in social content, and Gymshark is known for being a pioneer in influencer marketing, social media marketing that helps the company grow to a valuation by the Sunday Times last year of 1.25 billion in 2022. So the company has grown in a massive way, and it'd be fascinating to hear your story with them, and obviously with the amazing team that you worked with there to do that. So that's interesting. People are going to learn a lot about social content strategies, but also just life. And your unique journey has been some amazing synchronicities along your path. So we'll get to all that. There's 5 chapters to your story. Chapter 1, living the dream in Africa.
Yes.
Chapter 2,
the
keynote speech that changed your life. Chapter 3, punch, punch, hook.
Jab, right hook.
I'm going to do that again. That's embarrassing.
It's all right. It's just the Gary Vee guys will cancel you. That's all. I'm looking out for you, man. I'm looking out for you, man.
No, we have to leave it in. Jab, hook. There we go. That's the best I'm going to do. Chapter 4, Mr. Gymshark.
All right.
Chapter 5, Mr. Butterfly.
I love that name, Mr. Butterfly.
I like that.
Okay, E, we're going to get started.
Amazing.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Tell us about your early beginnings on the continent of Africa.
To be honest, I was really, really blessed, right? I think a lot of the times the African story, or whenever somebody comes from Africa, they describe it as being this really like challenging time. But I didn't have that, because although initially it wasn't necessarily financial security, I just grew up in an environment that was filled with love. So when I was born, everybody was around. My mom had so much help. It's almost like it becomes a family affair. And I did a recent LinkedIn post about the fact that it takes a village to raise a child. And I think my village did a really great job. And then I was very, very fortunate that whilst I grew up, I was born in the Congo. Before I could even think, my dad was one of the first almost like student graduates that was able to fly out of the Congo off the back of the, I think it was the Belgians used to rule the Congo at the time. And then when they left in the 60s, my dad was born just as that was happening. So they were the first generation of people that went to university. Congo was in a good place at the time. And he went to South Africa, right? So he had the choice to either go to Europe or go to South Africa. And after the Mandela apartheid period, there was a shortage of doctors, especially in the rural areas, and he took that opportunity. And then he went there, and then myself, my mom, we all followed suit afterwards. And we settled our lives in South Africa. It is, again, after Mandela, after the apartheid, so much patriotism in the country, so much excitement, new beginnings and everything.
That's great. What do you remember of like being in South Africa?
Do you know what? Like, I just remember being given the freedom to just play and express myself and create, right? I've watched endless cartoons. I've watched endless shows. I was big into sport. And I think that I just grew up in an environment where there was never a limit to anything that we could do. I was a dancer. So whenever my parents used to have parties or go to parties, I was in the middle of the dance with the adults. They used to call me, in French, it's petit guy, which means little guy. So I used to go in there, and then like people would give me like money on my like forehead, because that's what they do in the Congo when you dance really well.
Nice.
So I was a dancer. I like expressing myself. I was really creative. And then I think reality hit, and I only found out about this later on, because I grew up from the age of like 3, but the challenge was I needed to go to school, right?
Yeah.
If you're in an area where there's no school within an hour away, then it's like at one point the playing has to stop, right? And I actually got to the age of like 6, 7 without knowing how to read or write, right? So I could do mathematics. I was really good at maths because that came naturally. It's numbers. But then when it came to like, I could speak very well. I could story tell very well, but then I couldn't do the skill of reading and writing because I just didn't learn it. So when I was going into school, I found it really, really challenging. And that's the first time, I believe, where the playtime kind of like switched to, no, you need to actually start to focus on self-development and growth, because that was the first time I remember getting a report card about my performance in that quarter and the disappointment in my dad and mom's face. It's almost like my dad's a doctor, so academia is like really high there. And just that look of disappointment, I was like, I never want to see that again. And that's when I started building.
Okay.
Yeah.
The building begins there.
The building begins.
Okay.
So this is when you're around 6 years old.
Yeah.
How did you then kind of incorporate this learning into your life?
I didn't have a choice. So we had an uncle that was staying with us, one of my dad's cousins. And he basically, we had obviously our house, but then outside in the side, there was like a little side room. And my uncle just lived there. It was his little lair. And basically he was also a graduate, really, really smart. He's actually the one that taught me maths, right? So I could do like algebra before I could read or write.
Wow.
So he was really smart. And but my dad said, basically every single day after school, for 2-3 hours, I'd be in that lair learning and catching up, right?
2-3 hours.
2-3 hours.
Every single day.
Every day, apart from weekends, right? So every day, even on Friday nights. That was the short one. That was a 2-hour session. It was usually 3.
Got off easy, 2
Yeah,
hours. Friday
yeah.
night, yeah.
And the thing about that was it had to be 100%. There was no 70%. No, you have to get it right. Otherwise, we go again. And I did that for the best part of like a year, just like everyday learning until my grades started changing and I went from the bottom of the class to the top of the class.
Hey.
So that everyone was like, how do you catch up? I was like, that's when the fun ended. That's all I knew then. It's like regimented and knowing that you can be nothing and become something, right? That was my first encounter. That's why in every single chapter of my life, as we're going to talk about, it always starts from that point of like, why are you even here? And then it ends up being, oh, we know why you're here, right? Because I think about, and going back to the name of butterfly effect, that's exactly what it is, just step by step until that leads to chaos. So that's just the way that I've always been.
So you eventually moved to the UK.
Yes.
Why does that happen?
So eventually my dad's career takes off. He's doing very, very well. We're in a very good place. I think now from the age of like 9 till 13, I've never touched a dish, right? Like I've never had to clean my room. Like we had like helpers, everything. We're in a really good place. We thought we made it. And actually we did, like great house, everything. Family was great. We had a playroom, right?
Nice.
So we're like
Enough space to have a room just to play.
yeah, just to play. PlayStation's there.
luxury.
Everything was going
Driveway.
good. Oh, gee, well, I couldn't drive, but
There was a driveway.
yeah,
There was a garage.
gated garage, like everything. So
Wow.
in South Africa, it's actually pretty normal if you're like a professional. So it was going really well, like, and everything was going good. I was still focusing on my academics. I was getting into sport, and then what happens is a shift again happens where we're going through a period in the country where the xenophobia starts to build up, right? Because now these almost like professionals from neighboring African countries are not doing very well for themselves. Yet the economy and the natives, some of them are not doing as well, right? So the whole like statement of you're taking our jobs in the UK is like political reform. In South Africa, it's we're literally going to hunt you guys down, right? So it becomes very, very unsafe at the time. And then we had to find a new beginning. And obviously, given the fact that I didn't want to make I didn't want to waste the English that I've learned. I was very, very thankful that we ended up in the UK.
So you've gone from starting your life in the Congo, moving to South Africa,
Yeah.
excelling at school when you were the bottom of the class to the top by hard work and study every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Now life has taken a turn where you find yourself on the shores of the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
What do you remember about those first few weeks and months in this country?
I'll give an example. So we were at school one time, and this was when I was in South Africa, and a McDonald's opened. It's a big deal, right? American culture was huge there. So McDonald's opening, people did school tours, right? So we did a school tour there, and then they showed us the fridge, right? And they're like, we could go into the fridge. I was there for like 2 minutes, and I was like, this is the coldest thing ever. Who could ever live in a place like this? So when we're flying to England and they told me the temperature, it's exactly the same as that fridge.
The UK is a McDonald's fridge?
Yeah. A South African McDonald's fridge.
Yeah.
So I landed and I was like, oh my God, layers upon layers. And I think for the first time, at any time in my life, is the first time where somebody made me to feel inferior. Because even the color of your skin, if you're in Africa, everyone's black, right? That's not even a thing. There's more of a class thing. There's not necessarily like and a little bit of a nationality thing, but it was never because of your race or anything like that. That's why even till this day, it doesn't affect me, because it just doesn't register in my brain. It's the first time when I think people's outside perceptions were trying to infiltrate my internal perception and standards of myself. And I felt that coming into the UK as well, and I found it really, really challenging. I actually posted about this, to find a school, because for some reason my year group was the most populated year group in like education history. And not only are we moving here, I can't start school, so the learning has paused, right? Whenever I get to that point, I just go back to what my uncle taught me, and I just start learning. I was like, okay, if no one's going to teach me, I'm going to teach myself.
And you're how old at this time?
I was 14.
14.
Yeah.
Wow. Self-taught 14-year-old.
The thing is, I moved to Walsall, and from South Africa, you only heard one accent, right? London, right? And when you move to England, you're like, I thought I knew how to speak English, right? But then there's so many different dialects, right? And there's so many different like local colloquial terms. And I was just like, I don't know how to say anything, right? So I need to not only, I think that people don't understand when somebody comes to a new country, it's a complete blank canvas, right? That's even if you do know the language or not, because especially when you're going into school, you're dumber than the dumbest person at school, because they at least have context of where things are. I didn't know where Liverpool was apart from the football team. And then there's like people that don't really care about education. They're smarter than you because they just have local context, right? So not only do you have to learn about the subject matter, you have to learn about how people live. You have to learn about, and then people almost don't have an appreciation for that. I always used to watch football games, and a player would just move from a different country, and the interviewer will just like ask them the toughest questions ever. And I was like, oh, this is brutal. I need to make sure that I like, one day somebody will want to interview me, and I can't mess my words up. Ironically, here's where we are. So that's when I started studying. I had like a notebook, and every time I heard a word that I've never heard about before, I wrote it down. I researched it. I just learned everything. Everything I know has been learned. Nothing came naturally. I had to learn everything. Yeah.
9th of January, 2007.
Yes.
A day that changed your life.
Until this point, so I was able to convince this educational body to let me go to school, right? And they asked me, well, so what do you want to be, or et cetera, et cetera. And I said, I want to be a doctor, right? I was like,
my dad.
Yeah, like my dad, I'm going to be a doctor. Everyone was like, really? Like, really ambitious. I was like, yeah. And they were like, do you want to start a year? Like, obviously it was overpopulated. And I think this was around like June. This is before 2007. It was like 2006. They asked me whether I wanted to start a year behind. And I was like, no. Like, I'll learn through the summer holidays. Like, I'll do whatever I need to.
Yeah.
And I started on my journey. I was like, I'm going to be a doctor. And then I realized that I didn't really like science. Right?
Difficult if you want to be a doctor.
Yeah, and also I was terrible at it. But biology was good, but everything else, oh my God. But ultimately, I was like, well, my natural, and my dad told me that you should never be anything that anybody else wants you to be. You should always try to be who you are, right? And it came to that point when I was going into sixth form and I was trying to figure out what is it that I wanted to do. And first I said I want to go into business. I was like, okay, cool, that's broad enough. I wanted to go into law, but then they said that if you go into law, you can only do it in one place and you have to study again to like be a lawyer somewhere else. And I was like, I'm not doing that. And I said, okay, so I like business. I like psychology because I like understanding people. And obviously I wanted to keep on improving my English language and literature. So I said, I'm going to do that for some reason. I said, that's what I wanted to do. And when I was doing that, I was doing a lot of research on my assignments. And then at the time, Apple, Steve Jobs had a keynote, which everybody was watching. We watched it in our business class.
You watch it live?
Yeah, yeah, we watched. I don't remember whether it was on TV or whether it was on YouTube. I don't know whether YouTube was there at the time, but
They used to do this thing, didn't they? You
Yeah.
had to be on Safari to
Yeah.
watch the talk, right?
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
it.
Yeah, yeah,
You had to be on
yeah.
Safari to watch it.
Yeah, but I don't quite remember all the details, but I remember us watching this thing, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's very complicated technology," and he's explaining it in a way that I can understand, and I'm getting excited about a product, right? And I was like, and he's not wearing a suit, because my whole perception of marketeers or people in business was buttoned up suits, Mad Men style, kind of a little bit like Bill Gates. And I was like, that's not really me. So that was the only thing that deterred me from business. And here you got this guy wearing a black turtleneck, some blue jeans, and some what is the trainers? New Balance trainers. And I was like, and then I think the term 1,000 songs in your pocket, I was like, oh my God, that is so, there's a skill in that. And I was like, that got me really obsessed with marketing to the point where for my business class, I did they asked, we had to invent a product, and I came up with a thing called an iWatch, the intelligent, wearable, affordable, technical, compact helper. I did a 300-page like thing on it. I was that
You
hooked on it.
invented the Apple Watch.
No,
Yeah.
don't say that. It was terrible. The problem I found is I didn't understand how apps worked. So I was trying to figure out how does it do multiple things, right? And then when the apps store came out and everything, I was like, oh my God, they figured it out.
Wow.
So I was really obsessed with that. And I said, you know what, this thing called marketing, that's what I'm going to do. It's, you have to understand people, to be able to articulate yourself very well, and you have to have an understanding of business to be able to simplify it. So that was me at that time.
So you go to University of Wolverhampton.
Yes.
You join 2009. And then you start an internship in your second year.
Yes.
And you meet someone who has a big impact on you.
On the same time, around the same period, me and so I'm starting to reconnect with friends from like Congo, South Africa on this app called Facebook, right? Because everyone was on MySpace first, and it was MSN, right? MSN first. When I moved to, everyone's on MSN. I'm like, what the hell is this? Logging in and out just to send a undertone message because you want somebody to spot you, like people putting like their partners on their statuses. Oh my God. I was like, that was the early days. I was like, what the hell is, I was typing slow.
Yeah.
I was not computer literate at all, but then this thing called Facebook came about, and I was connecting with all my old friends, and I was like, oh, this is great. And I was using it, and also my UK friends, everybody was in one place. And then I found out the backstory about this 23-year-old that said no to Yahoo, turned down $1 billion, and I was like, oh my God, right?
Wow, yeah.
Like that
Who does that?
I don't
That's
think
amazing.
people understand how much that changed like entrepreneurial culture. Like people that were 23-year-old didn't get any funding. You were not even considered a business person, right? But then I've always felt that I was way more almost like legacy led than I was currency led. And there you have Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg dressing like a normal person, saying no to the short-term financials for the long-term vision. And I was just there like, this thing called marketing and this thing called social media, that's my thing. And so I was like, okay, somebody needs to, obviously I can write about it in like schoolwork, or somebody can give me an opportunity to actually demonstrate that this can work. So I obviously pursued a career, like a university degree in marketing management. And within that period, I also had an internship. And this guy, I was working at a nightclub called Gatecrasher Birmingham. So for anybody that's from Birmingham, you know where that is. And the bouncer was actually the one that headed up the security company. Okay. His name is Sonny. And he was like, oh, like, you like this marketing thing? We need somebody to come in. Like, would you like to do an internship with us? And me and my crew at uni went there. And whilst we were there, I wanted to do some social media marketing for him. But whilst we were there, he kept using this app called LinkedIn, right? And I remember...
And this is what, 2010, 2011?
This is about 2010, 11. Yeah. And the thing is, he was obsessed with the LinkedIn. I was like, I'm obsessed with Facebook. Like, what are you talking about? Like, obsessed with the LinkedIn. And he had like 500 connections. You know when you used to have like 500 plus and you didn't know how much? Yeah. I was like, how do you even know 500 people, right? Like, and he was like, yeah, like, this is how you do business. And he got us all to set one up. Nice. We took our pictures in a suit. Like, we went there in a suit. I didn't really like wearing a suit because I wanted to be like Steve Jobs.
You wanted a turtleneck,
Yeah, but who was I, right? Yeah. So,
and this guy worked with the security company? Or
no, so he was actually on the doors, but he owned the security company.
I see,
right?
Got it.
So he had his own separate office. ISA Security Services at the time. And I was like, okay, cool. We set up our accounts there. And the first thing I realized was, oh my God, like, everyone's on there. And then I was like, I wonder if there's somebody that has a social media title, right? And the first person that I ever noticed that had a career in social media was this guy called Musa Tariq, right? I remember it till this day. I think his background was he worked at Burberry, then he went to Nike, then he went to Apple. So you know that I'm like, who is this God,
yeah.
right? like, and then he later on went to like Ford and Airbnb and all these great places. And I was like, who is this guy? Like, I want to be like Musa. And then I added him and he followed me back. And I was like, oh, but I was too shy, right? And I also realized that the whole ethos of marketing is all about inbound, right? I was in a generation where it was not about like pushing sales. It was about like bringing people to the room and then getting them to come to you, right? So I said, okay, why don't I just add all the people that I think are really dope, I would want to work with, and then just give them value, right? And I started doing that, but then I didn't know why I was doing it, right? So it just seemed like it made sense, but it actually stemmed from the fact that I was shy. I was too shy to reach out because I didn't want rejection.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what are you reading and learning about social media? What sources are you using to learn about social media at this time?
To be fair, there was nothing out there, right? There was one lecturer when I went back to, at the time when I was still studying at uni, who was also obsessed with Facebook. His name was Gary Lennon. And he just kept talking about Facebook. And everybody else in like the course was like, what are you talking about, this Facebook thing? But we hit it off. I was like, this is going to be the future. Yeah. He was like, this is going to be the future. And he just like encouraged it. And all my lectures with him, I was like talking about social and my ethos, and I got really good grades because he just understood it. It was only when I tried to take that same enthusiasm to my dissertation that I realized that actually the world's a little bit behind here and he was just ahead. I came up with this dissertation topic, which was how small to medium-sized businesses would use social media to dethrone the larger competitors. And it was marked down for lack of Harvard references, right? And I was like...
How would there be at that time?
You're ahead of Harvard, basically.
Yeah.
In the future.
No. I still think that today it's I'd much more take a business almost like course from Kim Kardashian than from Harvard, 100%. Because I just feel like the world just started moving forward and it was just something that people didn't understand. And so I do the dissertation. I got marked down. I got a great degree, but then, and I was lucky that my dissertation didn't have as much of a weighting to my final like grade. And because I did well in my other module, I said, I'm just going to write about what I'm passionate about. So I did it, and it was a passion project. And my mindset there was like, I'll show you guys, like, this is a real thing.
You head out into the world of work?
Yeah. And everybody was saying exactly the same thing. What is this child play thing, right? Like, what is this social media thing? We don't get it. Like, have you done print before? Do you know about billboards?
This is what they were saying when you were going for jobs.
Yeah, radio. Like, really, it was really weird because I probably had the record number of like going to final stage interviews. Then probably, maybe not today, but at the time, I probably had like 25. And the reason why is because I wouldn't budge, right? They were like, actually, no, why don't you do this? I was like, nah, this is what you got to do because that's going backwards if I have a competitive advantage. And I realized this, and no offense to the UK, that most marketeers take the side of caution than they do the side of disruption and innovation. I realized that the people that I was looking to, your Garys, your Mark Zuckerbergs, your Steve Jobs, they're different, right? Everybody else is just playing here. I want to play over there. And I was not, again, going back to like my standards and who I am as an individual, I don't let anybody bring me backwards. If anything, I prefer being in a room where my dreams are too small, right? And I was like, I'm gonna find someone or a company that's gonna do that. It just tends to happen to me. So I always say that you should always make like the most frictionless point of entry, which was like, I'll start with the marketing industry, right? The agency world, because at least they're a little bit open-minded. And that was good. But then you're at the mercy of clients, a lot of red tape. I didn't really get the agency world, really. I was always an in-house kind of guy. And I was always trying to convince clients it was the same thing, that this is a really good thing to do. And they'll be like, no, we'll just do this thing. We'll do flyers. And so I convinced. And luckily, there's a guy called Luke Batty at Cap Studios. He was my sensei. Like, after Gary, he's the only person that made me feel like I wasn't crazy, right?
Because it's hard, isn't it? When you can see into the future and what you believe to be the future, and everybody around doesn't see it yet, it's easy to question yourself and go, you might have those quiet moments, or maybe you didn't, where you go, even if it's just a few seconds, where you go, am I wrong? Am I crazy?
100%. And I'm African, right? So we grew up like getting almost like wanting the validation of like people in authority to tell you that you've done a good job or you've done the right thing. So it was kind of the time when I was thinking that I'm the problem, maybe, right? And then Luke was very, very open-minded. Like, I actually met him 2 weeks ago, right? And now we're working together on some stuff. And he said, you were exactly the same. You just lacked confidence, right? So I think the coming to the UK, all the pushbacks, all that stuff, just knocked back like all the confidence that I had. He actually asked me one time, was like, Alfred, what do you want to be? I was like, I want to be a marketing analyst. And it was like, why? I was like, because I don't want to be the guy in the background that's giving whoever's the front person like the blueprint of what to do. That's where my role is, right? I'm more of a supporting role. And he was like, we're going to change that. And he just pretty much just like put me in front of stuff. Just like they created a new role for me. I was an account executive. They created the first ever marketing executive role. And they're like, you can work on whatever you want, right? Imagine that. No company does that, right? They're like, you can do research, you can write about what you want, and we can use that. We can publish it. We can give it to potential clients to try out. But I think that you should do whatever you want. And what he was trying to do there is build my confidence. If anything, the first ever talk I've ever done, he put me in front of 50 chefs, almost like teaching them how to use Instagram, right?
Okay.
And it was like it was all about Instagrammable food and how the fact that actually you can start to use this thing called Instagram in your restaurants because people love to post about what they eat. Sounds like medieval times, right? But I went in front of 50 chefs and I was nervous, right? And that was the first talk I ever did. And he was there. He came with me. He watched in the audience. He drove me back. And he just kept like building up my confidence. I went on pitches with him. And that was the first person to really like look out for me, as like the whole company did. But just because of my enthusiasm, my energy, and my like thirst for like the future. And I remember when Snapchat came about, and then I think it was World Cup 2014, where you could literally, you saw the Discover almost like feature came out, and I could see somebody in Brazil watching the game, and I was like, oh my God, this is happening, right? I was like,
I'm not wrong.
I'm not
this
wrong.
This is going big.
And the thing is, whilst I started doing my research, I landed on, okay, we're going to talk about Jab Jab Jack in a second because this is where we're going. But that's when I started to go into my discovery, to just thirst for more knowledge, understanding the current state of social, and just being obsessed with it.
So you learn about this technique, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you implement this technique, and someone sees what you're doing.
Yeah.
And this leads to like a big change, a massive moment in your life. Tell us what happens.
Yeah. So because of Luke giving me the confidence to like go out and just like express myself, I go back to LinkedIn because I was like, that's the only place where I've actually used in a professional capacity. And I was doing LinkedIn articles. You can see till this day, people are still talking about that very topic right now. It was why most brands are running before they could walk on social. It's like people were using it as a platform to shout, as opposed to as a platform for human to human interaction, right? Funny enough, I was just on a panel with like some really smart people, and we're talking about the fact that it's now human to human. I was like, it's been that, right? It's been that, right? But whatever. So so when I was doing my research, because I just kept writing about stuff, I found out. Well, no, actually, a step back. I wanted to put content out, but I didn't know how to do it. And then while I was doing my research, I stumbled on to this guy called Gary Vaynerchuk, who was just yelling on a YouTube podcast.
Literally yelling.
Yeah,
shouting.
yelling, right? Like yelling, right? But then he was speaking in a language that I understood, right? Again, he's one of those people that removed the jargon, just kept it straight. He always says that his talks were influenced by like stand-up comedy, hip-hop, all that kind of stuff. So it's for the first time, we were speaking the same language. He looked crazy. I looked crazy, right? And he talked about the fact, he summarized his approach as jab, 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 right hook, which is give, and then ask, right? And I was like, I need to do more gives, right? I've added all these people. I just to give them stuff. So I said, okay, I'm just going to go on. I'm just going to give them stuff. And I started writing, and then the company started getting more traction. People started like looking at what I was doing. And then I noticed that because there was a local company, which at the time was becoming famous because the founders were 19 driving R8s all around Bromsgrove in Birmingham. And everyone was like, these Gymshark guys. And I was like, that's really interesting. Let me add him. And then I went to Body Power because I was obsessed with fitness at the time, right? And I like these guys called the Hodge twins, right? I don't know whether anybody who's into fitness remembers them. They're the ones that came up with the term gains, right? So that whole thing, that's the Hodge twins, right? Them. Get those gains, etc. That was them, right? Yeah. It's a cultural moment. And they were coming to Birmingham to Body Power.
What's Body Power, for those who don't know?
So it's a fitness expo.
Okay.
One of the biggest ones in the world. And everybody that's a fitness influencer, like your Simian Pandas, all those people are all coming into one place. I was like, this is a dream. Like I was like, this Gymshark brand, it's local. These guys are coming down here. Let me go see them. So I go to the stand and there's a 4-hour queue, right? And I was like, what the hell is going on here? And then I look, I was like, first of all, I'm not going to queue up because I love the Hodge twins, but everybody else is here as well. So I'm going to look at them from afar, wave. If they see me, great. If not, then whatever. And then I started looking at the Gymshark stand, and I was like, the people that are running this are like the same age as me. I was like, this is really interesting. How did this happen, right? So and I remember that everybody at the expo was wearing Gymshark shirts. I later found out that they accidentally ordered too much. And then instead of just like burning it or getting rid of it, they said, you know what? If we get people's data, we'll just give them a free t-shirt.
Yeah. Smart
and they pretty much turned everybody into a billboard, right?
Nice.
The following at that period grew by 200,000 overnight.
Wow. Because
everybody at the expo, there was 100,000 people there, just simple maths, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, free t-shirt. I'm going to go sign up and I will buy some trousers. And I was hooked. I was like, this brand is great. They get it. They're young. They get social media. let me add a couple of people on LinkedIn because that's what I was doing. That was my thing, trying to get to 500 plus. and then when I stumbled onto the Gary Vee stuff, I started like jabbing. And then some Gymshark people were looking at my stuff, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool. I wonder if they have any jobs." And I looked at the LinkedIn job thing, and there was like a social media role, and I was like,
Oh, this
Yeah.
is it.
but my dream came crushing down because there was like 400 applicants, and I was like,
Oh,
well.
man.
I'm not gonna get that role. And so I was like, you know what? Let me just keep on jabbing. And then what happened was I got a call from a recruiter, and it was on LinkedIn. And the subject line, her name was Charlotte Cheshire. Her subject line was digital domination.
No.
Intriguing.
Yeah, very intriguing, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Target audience.
Yeah, you're like,
right here.
yes.
I was like, who? Like,
Yeah.
First and foremost, who speaks like that? Right? and then they're like looking for this role for like an up and coming fitness company in Birmingham, because they're trying to be cryptic. And then I was like, okay, I'll take the call. And then she was about to like,
Did you think it was Gymshark at this
oh
point?
yeah,
I mean,
It's
up
like,
and coming
who-
fitness brand in Birmingham.
who else, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she called, and then she was about to be very cryptic. I was like, "Is this Gymshark?" And she was like, "Yeah." She was like, "I'm all ears. Tell me whatever you want. Like, I'll do it."
Yeah.
And then I got an interview with Ben,
Who is?
the founder of Gymshark, right? So my interview was with Ben and a guy called Dan Knight, who was the digital marketing director at the time, or head of digital marketing at the time. I got an interview, right? And it was with Ben Francis, the owner and founder of Gymshark, and Dan Knight, who was the digital marketing manager at the time. And I was nervous. I remember everything about the drive up. I was shaking.
Really? Literally?
Yeah, because I was like, it was excitement, right? And then I was like, finally, I'm going to be speaking to companies where I'm not teaching them like the basics. They get it. They've already got like 1 million followers. Like that. So I was going there, and I remember What a Time to Be Alive, the Drake and Future was out. Right. So I think the title was, it was for social media, but they just gave everybody a blanket role like digital executive. And there was a song called Digital Dash, right? And I was just there like, I was ready. I was ready. They asked me one question in the interview, so tell us about yourself. I took over the whole interview. And that was like, that. They were like, this guy's crazy enough, it might be pretty good. And she gave me the job, right?
What did you say? Was that your plan?
I just went in.
Just went in.
Yeah, they're like told them my story, told them what I thought, told them about why I think Gymshark's doing well, told them about the things that I think that they're not doing so well. I told them about what the long-term picture needs to be and how they can go. And I also spoke about the fact that Ben should never leave the company. I was like, you're the heartbeat of this business. You're the reason why. Like, I remember that day, I was like, you have to be the one at the helm, because that's the reason why people will join. That's the reason why people will stay, all those different things. And I said it really early because I was just very good at spotting really great founders like Mark Zuckerberg. I didn't spot them, but I knew what great looked like. And for the first time, I saw somebody in the UK when I was like, he's one of them, right? And just we hit it off, right? And then the rest is history.
Did they? Well, we've got to tell the rest of the story. We're not ending there, ladies and gentlemen. Did they offer you the job on the spot, or did they get back to you, or what?
Oh, it didn't take very long. I was nervous. I kept berating Charlotte.
The recruiter.
Yeah, the recruiter.
Well, you'd call her up and be like,
Yeah.
so?
Yeah,
You heard anything?
Yeah, you heard anything? It's like, but they were busy.
Was it
And
one interview you had?
Yeah, one.
Okay.
Yeah, they were busy. It was a startup, and yeah, like, and I did a really embarrassing thing, and I put like a picture of me in Gymshark clothing at the back of my CV. I sent it over. So I later found out Seb, who used to work there, so they all laughed about it before. So
Leaving an impression.
Oh yeah,
delivering some impact.
oh, it's memorable, man.
Memorable, that's it.
Memorable.
You got
So for
399 other people to compete against.
Yeah,
How
so
are they going
yeah.
to remember you?
Yeah,
That's
so
it.
then they only told me about this afterwards, like, we saw your interview. We saw your CV, and I was like, oh, God, cringe. That was the fresh African in me.
What's the lesson in that story, Ash, you think?
There's a lot. I think one of the main things that sticks out is when you are ready, the right opportunity will appear. I think over everything else, I think that's the main one. You were ready and it appeared. There couldn't have been a more perfect opportunity to present itself to you at that time. I think that's definitely one. And then also, not being afraid to do something that stands out. You know, how many, if they had 400 applicants, how many of those were literally just a CV, probably not even with any colour on it or anything, right? Hundreds of them. Whereas what you did just sticks out that much more.
Yeah, and the thing is, when I got the job and I told the guys at Cab, it was really sad, but then they understood, right? They're like, funny, you're going to get like your chance. Everywhere that I've left, like I worked at an agency called Colgan Elliott before. Again, I always leave in a good, like with a good, and even the same way, it's always left with a selfie with the whole team in the back. So they just understood. And then when I went there my first day, I remember the post is still on Instagram. I think it said something like, first day at GSHQ, looking forward to almost like creating great community like experiences. And that was my post, right, from outside the old HQ. And I walked in the office and I was nervous.
Why?
Because Gymshark was very like open in the sense that like you knew who the founder was, you knew who the team was, and I'm seeing these people that I used to see on YouTube like in front of me. I'm like Noel Mack comes in, and
these are like celebs to you.
Yeah, he comes in with his like bright neon yellow, what they call it, trainers, and his like Canada Goose jacket, walking in there, and then Ben's like, yeah, that's Alf, the new social guy, and he looks at me, I was like, you had a whole person to do social. That's how it was, because the team did it, right? Like somebody would be in the middle of a dance floor and like post. There's like they just like they were native geniuses, right? They really got it. Like it didn't seem like a role. It's just like something that everybody does. The finance guy knew how to do social. Like I went to the place where I was a theorist. They were practitioners, right? So this is now I'm like, yo, you can't be like you like these guys are the real deal.
Yeah.
So I'm there like I get 2 cups of coffee first and foremost. Yeah, and then people have seen the picture of me leaving with like a shark hat on me, right? Here's the first way that they like messed with me, right? They told us as an initiation, everybody wears a shark hat, and me, I was like, yeah, I'll wear it.
Cool. Yeah.
Wear a shark hat. Looked like an idiot. And then I knocked down.
Like a hat?
Yeah, it was a shark hat.
Shark.
Yeah,
hat.
yeah.
Literally. Okay.
Oh yeah, they messed with me. And then the next thing was I knocked down like 2 cups of coffee. I was that nervous.
This is your first day, or
my first day, and then so that happens before, and then Noel walks in, and then Noel's obviously talking about like a new campaign, and then I overheard, and then they're like, then I was like, actually guys, do you think about doing it this way and this way? And everyone's like, you might just be all right?
Yeah.
And then I just like started winning the respect day by day. That's what it was.
So talk us through, your journey with Gymshark, because I'd love to know from your perspective, step by step, how you made the impact you did there. What did you do? And because you, as you said, set the scene for where Gymshark is at the moment, and then I'd love to just know like what you see as those key milestones as the company grew, what you did, and the impact it made.
I failed a lot. That's basically what it was. Well, no. So the company already did the hard work, right? They built the community. They meant something to people. They stumbled onto influencer marketing. They were using like authentic content. So they were doing all the hard work already. If anything, I didn't understand that as much, right? So I was thinking that their aspiration was to be like a Nike or Adidas or something like that. So my initial approach was, how do we elevate the brand to be seen like them? And it started off very well, and then the community just stopped engaging with the posts, right? They stopped because it was like what they liked was the lack of polish, right?
Oh.
They liked user-generated content. They liked the fact that it was real. They
like the finance guy posting.
Yeah, well, they didn't like this like creative guy try to make things look all like polished and proper.
That was you.
That was me, right?
Wow.
So Ben actually pulled me to a room. I remember he was like, whatever you're doing is not working, right?
After how long is this?
This was a month in, right?
Ooh.
Like, it's like, whatever you're doing is not working. It started well, right? And then because we didn't have a consistent amount of shoots, it was like, we're just like being creative for creative's sake, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, it's not working. What we need is consistency and an understanding of what it is that's been working so far, and how do we make that a little bit more consistent, and how do we scale from there? And I was like, okay, all right, so theory doesn't mean it's all about testing and learning and never steering away from the community itself. So my job, if I have to take any responsibility, was from that day onwards, I was like, the distance between Gymshark and its community can never be further than this point, and everything that we do, it has to be built around the community itself. And actually, to take a step back, the first week that I joined was the infamous Black Friday 2015 when the website broke.
Oh.
Yes. So everything was going well. Everything was really exciting. And then literally, like, you have 30,000 people trying to check out of a website all at the same time. And the website wasn't up to scratch at the time for that level of traffic.
They weren't expecting that.
They weren't expecting that. And it just absolutely, like, it was a nightmare. And I couldn't do my job. So I say a month. It was a month after the month of not being able to post because everybody hated us, right? So it was like not only...
And everyone hated you because
people couldn't get their orders. Like, there was delays. That was probably like a make or break. That was probably like a make or break period in the Gymshark history. And Steve at the time was the MD. He said something that left a lasting impression on me. He said that we need to take care of our legacy to take care of our currency, right? At the end of the day, if we focus on our legacy and we're remembered about like how people remember us in this time of challenge, that will solidify the Gymshark legacy. So it's always best to do the right thing, right? And we just like, even if somebody said like, as soon as somebody said that they had an issue with the order, we'll just give them a refund. We just did the right thing, and eventually everything cleared. But then people were not engaging. So as well as like that, you now have to start posting again because we have to carry on.
Yeah.
So people hate us.
It's like
There's this new guy.
It's like when you fall out with a partner, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife,
Yeah.
and you've fallen out, you've done something wrong. And it's like when you first like try and have a normal conversation, and you're like, so how was work today?
Where's
Fine.
my order?
Yeah.
Where's my order? Right? Start posting.
Yeah.
Until I get that was basically what it was. So I did customer experience for the first month, and then I started thinking, okay, we're going to the light. I'm going to come up with this fresh new idea, and it crashed and burned. It didn't work. And I remember there was even like this social analyst person that came in to evaluate my work.
Oh
right?
no, this is
And
not good news.
I was just there like, okay, so I was looking at this and I was like, yeah, I'm getting something wrong here. And then yeah, man, like, and I just took the philosophy of what they did before, made it more consistent, and I gave it just an elevated brush. And until that point, everything I was doing at Gymshark was all about refining what was already working really well, right? I had to learn the ropes, understand exactly how the business operated, exactly what made it special, exactly what the community wanted. So I had to go back to basics, and I had to crawl before we could walk, and then eventually run. But then we arrived to a new problem, which was that 95% of our sales and our clientele were male, right? So we had a business, a female side of our business, but no one cared. Like, the whole marketing team was guys, right? And we try to market to our female audience exactly the same way that we did with our male audience, right? It was like somebody trying to do like a kick or a punch, and the wrong, even at the wrong technique and form. It was just terrible, right? And obviously Gymshark had Gymshark Women at the time. It had 50,
what is that?
So Gymshark Women was a Instagram account where they wanted to sell the female line, right? Because they're like, okay, the guys line is a little bit more this aesthetic and this approach. Let's create a separate page just for our female audience and build that from scratch. And it wasn't working. Like they didn't see the same success. It wasn't authentic. It didn't really resonate with the audience. And to be fair, the product wasn't quite there yet as well, right? So they just couldn't get over a particular hump. And I was like, and the thing is, there was discussions about shutting down the women's account and just focusing on like the male business because that's where we saw success. And I thought, well, this is something that I can, can do, right?
Yes.
And to be fair, the stars aligned. They got a new product team that had some really great new product that was visual and more exciting. And I joined at the right time. And I was like, I convinced the guys to say, like, let's not shut it down. Let me give it a go. I'll work with it. I was literally you should see the state of me. Before I posted on Gymshark Women, I would put like Beyonce on in my headphones.
Wow.
And get into
the
vibe.
vibe.
Oh, it was like method acting. It was beautiful. Slay Queen, mint green Mondays. I was looking at the comment section. I was like, how are they speaking? That's me, right? I was like, if the reason why they love the Gymshark brand from the male section is because it's authentic, it's unfiltered, what does that mean for the women's section, right? It's not exactly the same, but the theory remains the same. And I realized that actually the very few women audience that we had, when I got to their pages, I looked at what they were posting. I looked at how they were interacting with each other. And I was looking at how our athletes were interacting with each other. And I was like, okay, let me give something a try. So initially it was all like photo shoot based stuff, or our female athletes would give us something that makes them look powerful and strong. But then we had this one athlete, her name was Amanda Finney. She had a wardrobe, right? And she put all her like mint green sets all together and just looked really aesthetically pleasing. And I was like, I wonder. So the first post that didn't have a person in product was that one, and it shattered the record of the most engaged post on Gymshark Women. And I was like, oh, like they want the Gymshark Women account to feel like your bestie that's into the gym.
So I don't understand. What did you do?
We reposted the post from our athlete. So we asked her, can we use the post? And we started doing user-generated content. So even without, like, didn't feel like you were selling it, because people like laying out their sets, right? They like showcasing. This is almost like medals, right? This is what I got. This is how I look. This is how I style it. And it had nothing to do with saying, buy this legging right now, or this new legging is whatever. And they literally just, if you see it on and it looks great on the person, and it's shot with a phone, which means that it actually looks great on a normal person, then they trust it more. And I was like, actually, why don't we go through this route? And literally we just broke record after record after record. The product became better at the right time. So the visual aesthetics became better. And Gymshark Women went from like at the time, 95% of our sales was male based. And now it's dominated by the female side. Wow. Yeah.
At that time or now?
Oh, no, even now. Like that changed the business forever.
Right then.
Wow.
That changed. And it was like, and it's a funny story because I remember the launch of the Flex leggings and the seamless set, right? The team did a brilliant job. It went over to the athletes and they loved it. And they were just posting about it all the time. And everyone, for the first time, and people are like, when's this coming out? I was like, our female line's getting a bit of traction. And it failed QC, right? Quality control before it was about to drop. And we're like, oh, damn. And then people started getting like really annoyed, like, when is this coming out? Like, stop promoting it if it's not. And we're like, this is interesting. Let's fly some in, right? Let's bring some in. We've never sold more than like 1,000 units of female products. Like, let's bring 1,000 in, and people will like forget about it. They're like, the women's releases were like so not a thing at the time that I was on holiday when the release was happening. I was on the way to, and don't judge my holiday destination, I was going to Portsmouth with my family, right? So it was a local one.
Seaside town?
Yeah,
It's not to like.
I was looking forward to it. It's like mini Dubai with that little stand. That,
You're right, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Dubai,
I was looking forward
Portsmouth.
to it. I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to post when I'm on the train. We're going to sell a couple leggings. and we just carry on about my holiday.
Easy.
So that's how it started. So I went on the caption. Seb, the guy that made fun of my picture, was also looking after our tech. He's like, okay, cool, Alf, at 3 p.m., like, you can go live and then you're good.
Yeah. You put on Beyonce.
Yeah. The thing is, the work was already done. The Beyonce thing already happened, right? And it kind of feels like, Stranger Things, when she puts the running up that hill. I don't know whether you've watched the new Stranger Things.
Not the new one.
Oh, you need to watch it. But basically, you get ready for it. So I put the post out and I drop my phone, right? And then as soon as I drop my phone, it starts buzzing, right? Help, our website's broke. We need to pause the post. Like, we need to YouTube. I was like, what? Sold out in 2 seconds.
Wow. 1,000 units.
Sold out 2 seconds.
Wow.
The post went up, the product ran away. Like that.
And what are you thinking at this point?
I was like, what? Like Black Friday 2015 all over again, right? But this time, they were not mad because the website broke. They were mad because they couldn't get the product that they wanted. And I was like, oh, this is pretty interesting. And we just spent like 5 years trying to catch up to demand.
Wow.
Like, people think it was a scarcity model. No, it's like, we think, okay, 1,000, that's my 5, gone. Okay, 10, gone. 25, 100, gone. And you're like, where does this end, right? Like, you're trying to meet the demand. And it just started this phenomenon that we realized that as people didn't get the stuff, our following went up. Because their friends are like, why are you so angry that you can't get this leggings? It must be good.
So they're talking about it.
Yeah.
No PR is bad PR. They're out with their friends.
It's funny how, like,
this thing and it's not available.
When people are saying, oh, I love this product, it's so great, you're like, who paid you to do this? But when you're like, this is the pitch. Oh my God, I can't get this legging that I really want.
What legging?
What legging?
I want to know.
Who's this? What's got you acting crazy on the internet? It's got to be something good about it.
It's got to be something good. Wow.
And that just, the women's product became phenomenal, made my job so much easier.
And it wasn't tactical. You weren't going, let's make this scarce. Nah. It's working.
Nah, no way.
You just could not keep up. And
just couldn't keep up.
So before all this happened, did you still have a question mark on you from the other people? Where like, is this guy really gonna help us? Because so far he's not done anything.
No. At this time, when Gymshark Women started doing well, I was in a good place.
No, but before that, before the Gymshark
Women,
no,
it was all right. Like,
it was okay.
I mastered it. It was doing okay, but I didn't solidify my I've brought something new. I was just doing what we were doing better. This is when I finally brought something new. And then they're like, okay, well, now you can hire 2 whole people for social. And
how did people's relationship with you change after the Instagram women? Did people start to be like, man, you've done a great job there. This is awesome.
Yeah, because then we started building out the females athlete section, working with the team there, which is really great.
What was Ben saying to you when it started to blow up with?
It's like, keep doing what you're doing, man. Like Ben's awesome, man. But his thing was he's the first person to like the post, so the pressure is there. Like, within 60 seconds, the whole company knows that you've posted, so there's no margin for error. I've just lived through that for 7 years. It's just pressure of making sure that you never toe out. And being able to experiment and try something different and speak on behalf of the company and be creative and take risks without f***ing up, right? That's just the level of expectation that I'm used to, which is why now that I do LinkedIn for myself, I'm like, it's easy. People have whole teams doing it. I'm just like, I can just do whatever I want. It's you just get used to that. It just felt like, again, like my uncle. No margin for error. Yeah. 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10. And I feel like that's the time when I taught myself. So that was great, obviously from a brand hype POV. The other one was when I taught myself how to do paid social. Right. And then starting off with a budget of £200 and cranking it up. And then we go from like not knowing how to use paid social to because what happened was you don't have drops every day, right? So you have a drop and it sells out. Now, what do you sell now, right? Like it's like, do we wait? Like business has to continue. And told myself how to do paid social, and we started like literally. We started with like click attribution, and then we're like, nah, actually, there's like other attributions that you can put in place and conversion. We're just tinkering with it. Starting with £200, became £2,000, became more and more and more. Now it's in the millions, and we went from like not knowing how to do it, didn't even have an account manager, to getting mentioned by Mark Zuckerberg and Sheryl Sandberg on the Facebook earnings call 12 months later.
Whoa.
Yeah, they were like...
When did you hear about that? Were you watching it?
So we had a really great account manager eventually called Steve Rock, and he loved us. And he was like, what you guys are doing is like brilliant. Like,
and he worked where?
He worked at Facebook Meta at the time. So he was helping us like optimize, because it was very logical, but we didn't know everything about it. And we worked together on the Black Friday campaign. And then we were told that they're going to be mentioning some brands, but bear in mind there's 70 million at the time on the Meta platform or Facebook at the time. So brilliant American businesses, etc. So they could have talked about anybody. Like you have a 1 in 70 million chance of being mentioned.
So you went from 1 in 400 chance to get in the job, and now you're up against 1 in 70 million.
Yeah. And by the way, remember again, now this is Mark Zuckerberg we're talking about, right?
A man you'd looked up to, analysed and learned from and analysed.
Yeah. And now we all, the whole company, I believe, they give us a link to the earnest call. And it was up late at night. And they were speaking about like the ad platform and how it worked. And they're talking about like some of the big brands. And then somebody, I think they were from Goldman Sachs, said, you're talking about examples of brands that are well established, right? Where's your example of a brand that's like up and coming and starting to use the platform? And they're like, there's this brand in Birmingham called Gymshark. Oh my God.
How did you feel right then?
Oh my God.
What do you remember?
I could have cried. I'm not a crier, but honestly, that was like, I was like, I think there's something happening here.
And what year is this?
This is 2017. So it's like...
You've been there how long at this point?
Just under 2 years. It was like a year and a half, right? So it was like, that's when we're like, oh my God, this is going to be a thing. We got verified.
You're on Zuckerberg's radar.
Yeah, I'm the like, he knows we're in Birmingham. They said Birmingham. I'm like, we're on the map. 0121.
Come on.
All that stuff. I think She Wants a Man from Brum came out around then. That's when the world felt really small, right? It's like, first everything was out of reach and very far. That's when I realized that things don't happen by coincidence. If you visualize it, if you study it and you work, you'll get closer to exactly where it is, because they'll spot you, because that's what they're looking at, right? And that happened, and then we just went from strength to strength to strength. Like literally, the 2017, well, halfway 2016 to 2019 at Gymshark, that period was like, if there's any period in time that I would like to freeze from a professional standpoint, and I'm trying to do that with my business right now, it's that period over there. That was like, it was just the whole us against the world. No one knows who we are. We have no right to be here. Yeah, we're just like shutting everybody up. It was just like, our office looked like a call center. There was boxes everywhere. And you got Mark Zuckerberg shouting you out in the earnest call to save his ass. I was like, that was just great. That's what stories are made of. And it was all about who you came with every single day. It was not about a fancy office. It was not about anything. That period was just about really great people. I think we had like 11 sets of siblings. It was like really everybody was like loving what we were doing there. And it still continued, but I think that period was when you didn't believe it was going to happen. You just, and then it happened. And we end up, I think Nolan, the guy, had a brilliant idea, and they got like Owen Ruddy, who was Conor McGregor's coach, sparring coach, like I don't know what his actual like remit is, but he was one of his coaches when they had the Mayweather fight and the Conor McGregor Mayweather fight.
And they
now,
got him to wear it.
So we couldn't get Conor to wear it, but we got him to wear it.
The trainer.
And then he was everywhere. And then I remember our account going live at the weigh-in, and I was just there like, how did we get here? Right?
Yeah.
That's
That
what
was the biggest thing on the planet that day.
Oh yeah. And the thing is, like, Nolan, the guys did it all, but I think what I'm getting at was just like everybody was just like in sync. We all got it. We all contributed. We all did very, very well, and it was just like an exciting time. It was very carefree, and yeah, it was us against the world.
What's the lesson from that, Ash?
What's the lesson from that? Well, number one, it sounds like a tremendous amount of fun and an exciting time to be involved in things. But again, I think going back to the original point of how you managed to crack the female audience, I think that was just a brilliant example of just looking, observing, and just experimenting with something. And with that, you then got all of this data about what that audience actually wanted. Not what you thought they want or what you wanted to try to see if they'd respond to, but what they actually wanted. And then continuing doing the right things got you that mention, by Mark Zuckerberg. It made the organization grow. And the momentum was there to keep on building and keep on rolling, as Limp Bizkit would say.
Oh yeah, I was beautifully done. I actually was on holiday for a weekend, and I couldn't wait. I was actually still off on the Monday. I raced to the office because that was the launch of our new Black Friday event, because we started doing it on Mondays now to avoid like being caught up with all that. We learned a thing or two. And I raced to the office for the launch, right? Like on my day off, because that's how it was. We're just like all in. And there's a video which perfectly captures that time, with everybody seeing like the Google Analytics go up and up and up, and then eventually breaking. And then you have everybody just jumping around and hugging each other. That video is, and it's somewhere on the internet. I think it's on Ben's channel. But that video perfectly captures what Gymshark was about at that period. It was just like so crazy. It was like the best thing ever. Like you could offer me £1 million, I'd never leave. You could offer me 10 million, I'd never leave.
So the company is growing massively.
Yeah.
And you mean that you would never leave, because you go about buying a house.
Yeah.
And just to chart the rise of Gymshark here, 2019, Gymshark made sales of 175 million with profit of 18.6 million. Then we go to 2020, 260 million. Then 2021, 437 million. 68% growth since 2021. This thing is flying. So you're like, I'm 100%. I'm Gymshark. I'm Mr. Gymshark. I'm going to live here. What happens?
Well, the culture's there. The work is there. I buy an apartment on Gymshark campus, 4 minutes walk. I'm trying to convince my wife, who was born in Dubai, that we're going to live in Birmingham for the rest of our life. And the plan changed. So
was your pitch? It's kind of like Portsmouth, but without the thing. So it's like Dubai, but it's up further north, and Zuckerberg likes it, and that was your pitch for them.
She wasn't having it. We're having discussions about, okay, well, if you live in London, I can do 2 days remote working. We're figuring it out how we're going to do it, right? And then I get a job offer from a company I will not name, but they're one of the companies that I've talked about in this podcast. And it was my favorite company. And it was it was the ultimate validation, right? In a sense of like, I just felt that it was another sign that all the businesses that I admired from afar and I try to replicate, that they just found me, right?
Yeah.
And it was
hold on a minute, but you're Mr. Gymshark. You bought a house on campus. Company calls you for a job. Surely you're like, sorry, I'm doing this for life.
Yeah, but this one was a different knock, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was like 99% of jobs won't affect me. I probably won't look at it. You can give me a blank check. I will. I definitely. I've always felt that I do my best work when it's driven by something bigger, and the money will come. And that one was more like a legacy play. But I guess the challenge was that I was like, well, history has already been done there, right? And also, the idea of being a cog in a big machine, I just don't really like that. I like the idea of being able. I just talked about the fact that we heard about the Saddest thing at 9. We come up with something by 11. Like, that's more my vibe. So I was like, well, I can't go backwards, right? So because I already entertained the idea of doing this, if anything, like I was going to do it, right? And then my wife told me, well, I thought you said that this is the last job you're ever going to do. And I was like, oh, well, you're right.
So you were going to do what?
I was going to take the job.
You're going to take the job. You're going to leave everything, all this family you basically got. You bought a house there. And then your wife says, oh, you're going to do this for life. What are you talking about?
The thing is, she was still my girlfriend at the time. I don't think she was even my fiance at the time.
Wow.
So, and bear in mind, I was going through like moving to the UK. I had to be very, very like focused, right? Mm-hmm. I just like from 14, I think I've heard like Kobe say he made a deal with himself. I kind of did the same thing. I was like, well, if you want to go from nothing to something and you're already way behind everybody else, you're not going to have the same childhood and teenagehood as everybody else. You're going to have to stay on course, right? I didn't have a girlfriend until I was like 25, right? I was just like, I'm just going to do this because I was already slower than everybody, right? Because it didn't come naturally to me. I've had to learn everything. So it took me twice as long to do things. In terms of like building a career, adulting, all the like stuff that people just do into it, like it took me forever. Like even till this day, thank God for ChatGPT and the fact that I can delegate stuff, because my mind works faster than my actions, right? And I've had to like, I'd literally be doing my work up until like 3 o'clock in the morning, just to do it at the same pace as everybody else, right?
Right.
Because it's not my first language, all these different things, and also my mind's always like going off, right? So just to sit still and just like write stuff, it takes me forever to do. So the big thing about that is that that's why my wife saw all of that. She was there like that. That's why when I got the job offer, she cried, not because of the opportunity, just because she's like, I just worked really, really hard, right? And then she was like, but then you can't take it, right? And I was like, you're taking this away from me.
Had you mentioned this to anyone at Gymshark at this point?
No, okay. No, because I didn't make it final. I was literally going back and forth, and then when I was saying, okay, well, what am I going to do? And then I got a phone call. It's funny how life works. I get a phone call, and I pick up the phone. Usually I ignore phone calls from numbers that I don't get, but I was in the office as well. I picked it up. I was like, hello, and this guy called Zach. He was like, hi, it's Elfried, it's Zach. I'm like, I'm a headhunter. I'm working on behalf of this company called Iconic. I was like, not interested. Put it down. And then I get a call the next day. He was like, hi, Alf, I know you said you're not interested, but I think this could be really like a really great opportunity for you. They're working on this Web3 thing, and I also was intrigued by like new technology. I was like, social was people are starting to know what's the next thing. I was like, that's really intriguing, but I'm not leaving Gymshark. Like, if I'm about to say no to this company, like no job's gonna get me.
So you decided at this point you're sticking with Gymshark.
No, I said it's either I'm gonna start my own company. I was like, okay, if I'm gonna leave Gymshark and not take this, I have to do something like myself, right?
Oh.
But I didn't yet know. That's why I didn't like make the decision. I didn't yet know what I wanted to do. So I was like, okay, if I'm gonna build, I'm like I can't. If you asked me, Alf, like what if you were to write a book, what are you gonna write? That's not as simple as that, right? I don't work that way. I have to say, okay, what book do I want to write after that? What book do I want to write in 10 years time? And then let me work backwards, right? I need time to like just sit down and do like, ever watch Prison Break?
Yeah.
Michael Scofield breaking his brother out of prison. Well, that's me. Take my time and I just go to town, right? So I was in that phase. And then, they're like, actually, like, you should speak to the founders, like, they just want 15 minutes of your time.
This is the recruiter still trying to get you.
Yeah. It was like 15 minutes of your time. And I was like, all right, cool, I'll do it. I spoke to David, and David was just brilliant. And I was like, these guys are awesome. Like, what they're doing is great. I love everything. But I was like, I said this, I'm not going to, like, I like what you're doing, but I've already made a decision that I'm going to start my own business. And then they were like, well, why don't we help you? And I was like, pardon? I was like, what do you mean? I was like, well, we're a venture studio. Why don't you join us and be our chief community officer? But really, we're going to need a marketing company anyway. So why don't we just like fund your company so you can help us, and then we can use your agency? And I was like, oh.
What are you thinking when you said that?
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't know these things existed, right? And I think that going back to Mr. Gymshark and LinkedIn person, that's the doors that it opens for you when you do great work that people feel like is worth like changing conventional arrangements because they feel like you're good for it, because you've just led your like you led your career with like integrity and doing the right thing and saying no to the right things, and then they just said, okay, cool, we think that actually we want you to be you, right? So actually, if we bring you in, you can work on this, you can help us, and we can help you. And I was like, all right, cool, let's do it. That made sense. And that's when I told Gymshark that I was, but then the guys were nothing but supportive.
What was that moment like where you had, did you arrange a meeting with Ben and tell him, or how did that work?
So that was really interesting because, what they call it, the saddest moment was when I realized that I can't turn this down. That was the saddest moment because that was the realization. Because I was like, it's almost like when you know that a relationship's about to end, right?
Right.
Like with somebody that you've been in a relationship for 7 years. It's a long time. Like I
You
sacrificed.
effectively bought a house together.
Yeah. I sacrificed a lot
living
of
together.
stuff for Gymshark. For 7 years, that's the only thing I thought about. I loved that business like it was my own, right? And I was like, this is where I was going to be forever. Like I made decisions about life based on Gymshark, right? Like everything was around that. That was the only thing I talk about, the only thing I thought about, everything I spent my time. So it was almost like a conflicting reality with yourself, right? Like it's a part of you now. It's almost like you're breaking up with yourself because a part
that's
of you,
your
right?
identity now.
Yeah. On LinkedIn, it's like the black guy from Gymshark. That was me, right? That was the Gymshark guy, the social guy at Gymshark. That was like that was my thing. And I was even like, well, no one want to listen to me on LinkedIn now. Like, but I was just like, people might not care. So
you were thinking that if you leave Gymshark, people are not going to care about you or what you've got to say or what you're doing.
That was because like it was, although I was there, like when I used to tell people I worked at Gymshark and they said, oh, are you a personal trainer? What is Gymshark? What is a Gymshark, right? that's when I joined, right? And I moved close to the office then. So I've always, where I've lived has always been near the office. I've always moved wherever the office was in Redditch. I moved to Redditch. It moved to Solihull. I moved to Solihull. I bought a house on the campus. Like literally, you go outside, you look at the back, you see the Gymshark office. That was my thing. So when I have to now make the decision, I speak to Noel first.
And who's Noel? What's his role?
Noel is the CBO at Chief Brand Officer at Gymshark. So I had to speak to him first. And I spoke to Noel and
were you nervous before that conversation?
Yeah, that must have been a really hard one.
Oh man, like it was a tough one. It was just we're both just quiet in the room.
What did you say? How did you start the conversation?
I don't remember. Like it was all a blur, right? I just said some words. Really, I just went and told him like, I think that's my time, right? Because I was like, I'm very big on like passing on the baton as well, right? I'm not one of those people that likes to overstay their welcome. Even with my current business, I said that I'm already prepping for who's going to take over after me, because I feel like that's the enemy of progress, is when you try to hold your seat for too long, right? So I was like, actually, I'm at a point now, when I looked at it, I'm at a point when I'm in my comfort zone. It's a high level comfort zone where there's like, you have to do big results, and a lot of people will find it daunting, but I've done this for 7 years, right? It almost felt like, in Harry Potter, Prisoner of Azkaban, when Hermione has that clock when she knows what's about to happen, she's seen it before. That's what every year felt like. I was like, okay, now it's September and people are going to start panicking for Black Friday and this is going to happen like this. I became good because I just knew what was going to happen, right? So it wasn't like genius or anything. I've seen it. First time, whoop, missed it. Second time, missed it. Third time, missed less. Fourth time, that's all it was. And I was like, am I just going to do this for 25 years, right? So I had to tell Noel that I think that if it was for another job, that would have been, even if it's not a competitor, that would have been different. But
what was his reaction when you told him?
Oh, the thing is, it was mixed, because he was so happy for me, but it was also really gutted, like genuinely. We were just quiet, and like we gave each other a hug, and then now I had to tell Ben. Oh God,
The founder.
yeah, and that was tough. Like we were both really quiet. Like that was really tough.
How did you bring that up? Did you go for a drink? Did you have a meeting? Did you?
It started with Noel, and then we had to kind of like put a brave face for everybody else, and we walked out of the room. And then I had to go find Ben, who was on the other end. I spoke to him, and then it was like,
What was his reaction?
oh God, like Ben's like, he's now a little bit more emotional now that he's like married and older, but he's like the king of like poker face. And then I was like, I don't cry, you can't cry, because if you cry, I'm done, right? So it was like that.
He was emotional at the time.
Yeah, very. And but the thing is, was really supportive, right? It was like, can we do anything? And I was like, bro, it's just the time, right? And they're like, they didn't stand in my way. They asked me what help did I need, and the thing is,
That's amazing. That's really nice.
Oh, it was really great. Like, and then I spoke to Niren. Niren is the one that nearly set me off. He was like gone. He was like, I can't leave. But he was amazing. It was so good. And then they all left early.
Really?
Yeah. And then when they announced,
It's like morning.
no,
They
it
were
was in
morning.
the afternoon.
As in, they were in mourning for the loss.
Yeah, the loss that they're about to
Oh
face.
no, that was bad. It's when it was announced to the entire company. By the way, I couldn't tell anybody for about 2 months.
Oh, that's a long time.
So I'm coming in every day.
Hey guys,
How's
everything's good.
it going?
Yeah.
Et cetera.
Mm.
And when it was finally announced, it was on me and Noel. If on my Instagram, there's a video of me and Noel, like basically, it's like a call out for it, like we're on the hunt for the next global head of social at Gymshark. But there was an internal version of the video, which was an announcement to the company that I'm leaving. Right. So usually it's an email. Mine was like me and Noel here, and is like, so where you going? And I have to like break it down. It goes out kind of like, if you're an Arsenal fan, when Thierry Henry left Arsenal, which is the saddest thing in my heart, like I had to do this video where I'm telling people like what I'm doing, like where I'm going. And the thing is that I'm getting a slack to say we're about to drop the video, and I'm like in the middle of like the whole like office, and it drops on Slack, and all of a sudden I see this. Everyone looks back, and I'm like, oh my God, people left early. Like that was the day of mourning. Like,
Wow.
I think it was 3 p.m. Everyone left home. They're like, everyone
What?
can go home. And I was like, what the hell, man?
Wow.
Like, and it was like,
How does it feel to have had that kind of impact at that company?
do you know what? Like, for me, I don't ask for a lot, right? But whenever I get it, I don't, and my wife talks about this all the time. I don't like things. I love things. Like I don't like a lot of things. I love a very few things. So if I love, if I work somewhere, I'm all in. If I'm just an all in type of person. So I think then you realize that that time was like well spent, right? And even people that maybe verbally won't say it, everyone came to me that day, and it was incredible. And the guys did like a video that they sent it to me afterwards with everyone's messages. That was like tough. But I was like, if you're gonna make, that's why I feel like if you're gonna make a jump just because of finances, when there's that level of like support, it's almost like a slap in the face. So it had to be something that's bigger, and therefore that I could personally grow from. So like everybody was really supportive. They brought me another shark hat. Just like all the times. They brought me an Arsenal shirt with like social first at the back.
Do you wear it?
Yeah, it's pretty big now, but it was great. Like the guys were nothing but supportive, and we did a Be Real. Me, Ben, Noel, the rest of everyone came out like in the office, and it was great. I think the quote that Noel said was that the name is forever engraved in the Mount Rushmore of Gymshark, and I was like, that's great.
It says a lot about the company, the culture, the leadership there, of how they handled that situation. Because you could easily think that you were going to say, they were really angry, because it's an integral part of the team. They've done nothing but good to you, and like, why are you leaving us? But it sounds like they were just nothing but supportive, and that's pretty special.
But they knew who I was, right? They're like, when you work 7 years with people, they know like your intentions, who you are. So they knew that if I was doing this, it was for the right reasons. And like it's been really cool. Like everything's been amicable even till now. Like it still feels like it actually took me like a year before I even like went back. I have a house near there. I didn't go back to the office.
Well, you don't want to rebound, so
I don't want to Drake and drive, and also like I didn't want to Drake and drive, and also like the store open, I just couldn't do it. Like I couldn't. It took me a bit of time, and then.
So they opened their first store. First, like this has been a company that's been online only, been a core part of the social growth and everything. Then they opened a physical store, massive moment for the company, but you don't go.
Not for the first year of the store.
Right.
No.
Why?
Because it was about the moment. It wasn't about like I didn't want the day that I go back and see everybody. It's about the store. I went there on my own time, like afterwards, and just looked at it, and that was a really good moment. But you can't be, when you're in school and then there's kids that get expelled and then you still hang around school.
Yeah.
Right. I'm like,
move on.
I'm like, you need to move on. Like if you say you're gonna move on, don't be hanging around and coming back and doing it. Like, no, just move on and do.
I'm gonna keep going with the analogies. It's like an ex-partner buys a house and has a housewarming party.
Yeah.
You don't go to that.
No. You don't go to that.
But at the same time, I don't mean that because you could have gone. It would have been lovely. They would have loved you there. But I see where you're coming from.
It was, but it wasn't just like Gymshark wasn't just a company to me. It's not the same thing. Like I don't think people understand like just how much like that was like everything, right? Like so that's where I realized that I wasn't crazy because I got my opportunity for the first time. That's where like all the milestones, like even Gary Vaynerchuk ended up being on the Gymshark board, right? So because he was a big fan of our social. So
the man that taught you jab, 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 hook.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which after doing that led Gymshark to find you, then comes on the board for the Gymshark, which is pretty cool. Yeah,
but he was actually speaking at a thing called Facebook Grow. And I went there specifically. It was at Soho Farmhouse. I went there specifically. I didn't even know this was a thing, but I just wanted to see Gary. And I went there, and he came down the stage. He was walking past, like saying goodbyes. And then he saw my name tag. I was like, Gymshark, I'm a big fan.
Whoa.
And he walked past. And I was like...
What did you feel?
I was just like...
Dope.
No. But what I'm saying is that all the things that I thought was at a... Like, the world just was a very... I'm at a point now where... You name the individual. I know we're gonna meet anyone that I admire. I know it's gonna happen. Right? I just know it will because I just feel like because I have a very I have an abundance mentality now. I know I used to. I think the world is just kicking me into abundance until I finally got the message. But I just believe now that if if there's anybody out there that you admire that thinks that they're superhuman, you have to recognize that you are exactly the same as them. And actually, the closest way to become closer to your idols is by studying them and executing, and then they'll find you. And that's basically the summary of that. And it was better solidified as this. There's this podcast called Founders, and they basically say that's what happened with Kobe Bryant. That's what happens with everybody. It's like people talk about finding a mentor. Like, no, if you have a mentor in mind, study them because they leave clues, execute, and they'll find you. And then the dynamic will be different, right?
Yeah.
And
Because they see themselves in
yeah.
you.
And what happened with Kobe Bryant is he did that with Michael Jordan. And I was telling this story off air. Basically, when he was pretty much like a prodigy coming out of high school, he went to train with the Philadelphia 76ers. And they basically said, like, by the way, when you play against Mike, like, we call him Black Jesus. We call him like we call him like the Black Cat. Like, no one calls him Mike. And it was like, he doesn't know me. It's like I'm gonna show up and he's gonna have to come to me. And he just went to him and just like he wasn't scared of him. It was like, I'm like you. Like, and then Michael Jordan like respected that. And he actually asked him for advice midway through a game. Right?
Who did?
Kobe Bryant. He went to him and said, I was trying to work on this shot, and Michael Jordan gave him some advice. He's never done that before. And it's because he just saw that he had the same thing, right? All these idols get bombarded by people. They don't waste their time on people they don't feel can execute. Show them that you execute, and then they'll come to you.
Yeah.
And that's the best advice I can give to anybody that's looking to like become arms like reach of anybody that they aspire to be like. I forgot who I was, right? Like, despite the like how we were successful as Gymshark, I knew that I played a role in that. I still associated my success with the brand, right? Like, and it was only when I met my wife, which is why the person that you end up being with, I feel, is the most important decision, because and it has to be somebody that reminds you who you are and almost like pushes you to be even better. And the reason why right now on my Instagram, my picture is of me when I was like 10, 11 years old is because I realized the moment that I forgot who I was when I moved to the UK, right? Because at that point was when like I was top of the class, right? I was like, you know what, people say that I couldn't read. I can. I'm at the top of the class. I'm at the top of my game. The world is my oyster. I was watching Fabulous Life. Like, you know, there's a VH1 series called, like, there'll be a celebrity and they'll be like, that Fabulous Life and what they've been able to do and how much money they made and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, that's me. Like, I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do business. I'll invest in this. And I came to the UK and everyone just kept telling me like, keep your like legs on the ground. Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you thinking about that? Why are you wasting your time? There was just like a lot of negative, almost like reinforcements of people projecting their limitations on you. And you almost believe it, right?
If you could go back in time and speak to Elf now, with all those things being said to him, what would you say?
I will say that, and the thing is, what I always say is that's something that we've not been told before, is that what you consume determines your trajectory, right? And if it's not your actual literal trajectory, it's at least what you think, right? It's almost will give you almost like a limited belief in yourself, right? That is why this whole concept of imposter syndrome exists, is that you are there. You've like literally made it, but you don't believe that you should be there. And until you believe that you should be there, you will never thrive and disrupt and change things. You'll always be waiting for somebody to find you out, right? And that's the thing, right? So it's like, it's not just about, it's about what you consume, from the people that you speak to the media you consume. It all has to reinforce the fact that you have your own ikigai, right? There's a reason, you have a reason for being here. And once you find out what your ikigai is, therefore you can just say that I can be the best in the world at that.
Explain ikigai.
Yeah, it's a Japanese concept about like your true reason for being, right? And what it is, it's almost like a Venn diagram based on like 4 different questions. The first one being, what are you passionate about, right? The next one being, what are you good at? The third one being, what have you been paid to do? And the fourth one being, what does the world need? In the middle there is what you are in the best position to do. And I think what a lot of what people do is to go for things where there's an imbalance, right? And what I realized with my Ikigai is I actually ticked off for the first three. The world already had the Gymshark story, right? Am I just going to sell more leggings, right? like the entrepreneur story, the new market, that was already done, right? The world needed something else. And that brings us to butterfly effect. And I said, well, the world needs a more diverse creative industry. So let's have the audacity to believe that we can be a pillar for change.
Amazing. Love that. Well, let's finish off the story with butterfly effect.
Yeah.
Just tell us, the thinking behind it and just expand on that.
Yeah. So this is how great Gymshark was. Even though I was already on notice, I was supposed to go to Cannes with Noel and the team, and it still took me along. So we went.
So this is Cannes Lines.
Yeah, Cannes Lines.
Cannes Lines, the biggest conference in advertising on the beach in Cannes.
Yeah.
Whole week, huge conference. All the brands are there. Google, Spotify, Pinterest, TikTok.
Although I've been in the marketing industry for a while, I was never part of the marketing industry really, right? Like we did it, but I was not part of the community, the world. I didn't know about your WP. I didn't know what WPP was, right? I just about knew what Ogilvy was. We're in a bubble. We didn't know what any of these things were. We just knew
And WPP is the biggest advertising network in the world, and you're doing some amazing advertising effectively. Zuckerberg's mentioning you, and you don't know. Yeah,
we didn't most of the stuff that people know here, that is you should know, which didn't know. We're just oblivious to it. That's why, we're no one was looking at Solihull, Birmingham to see what's going to come out of there. We're just the outsiders doing our thing. So I now found out about this world, and I was but the most creative people that I know are not here, right? And the most creative people that I know don't look like where we are, right? This is a different thing. And I was well, we need to shake things up a little bit because we need to change what this looks like. And to be fair, I spoke to the team there and they were really, really receptive. And this year, the year on, it was a lot more reflective of the industry and where it is. But at the end of the day, there's still more work that needs to be done, right? And there still needs to be a business case of a case study that diversity makes business sense in creativity. Yeah. But you can't, yes, representation is one way to do that. But it actually, until you get the Gymsharks only started being taken seriously from the world when it made when the business made sense. You can be a cultural icon all you want, but can you create a business? And I was it makes business sense. We're going to create it and put it into practice. And when people see us do the blueprint, you can have it. You can steal our stuff if you want. You can steal our model if you want. We want to start the butterfly effect, which is the name that I feel like the solution to the problem is the name of the company, which is the butterfly effect, because the marketing industry is an industry where people like to copy each other's work. So give them something worthwhile to copy.
Love that. Love the attitude. I love the values behind it. And I mean, it's just going to be fascinating seeing the journey and the growth of butterfly effect. And then, as you said, your successor will take over one day and you'll do something different. And after that, so it's an exciting...
In true Alfred nature, I've already figured out what that step is. I'm not going to reveal it here, but I already know what the 10-year plan looks like. The reason why is because my financial advisor asked me to envision it, because then we need to start to make steps to get to that. So you can't just ask me what do you want to do? I'm where are we going? What is this? I don't just make a decision and figure out the next. I need to know a few steps down, and then I'm okay, I just have to take care of this. And if I do this, that is looked after. And that's what I do with everything. So I didn't start Butterfly Effect to figure out where we land. I know exactly where we're going. Yeah.
Why do you have a financial advisor?
The reason being is I feel like it's super important that we become, especially going into business as well, I realize that if I'm going to be a CEO of a business, then I have to brush up on the things that I'm not so good at and it all starts at home. My big philosophy with everything is I don't sell somebody something that I don't do myself. So if I want to run a business and run it effectively, I have to make sure that my house is in order. So I speak to the experts and they teach me how to manage my money, which therefore helps me better manage the money of the business. So it's nothing like textbook or ingenious about it. And that's what we do. It's like, I try, like, for example, with my LinkedIn, right? Like, I just got announced as the second most influential person on LinkedIn globally.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big accolade.
Nice.
So that was yesterday. But the thing is that I always say that I'm going to try something on myself because I don't believe that I have the right to teach anybody else unless I have the scars to show it. So everything we do as B3, we do on ourselves. And the cool thing is because we have Iconic, every service we provide to clients, we do it with Iconic first, right? So we try it, we test market it. If it works, then we sell it. If it doesn't, and I'm not happy with the level and the quality of it, it doesn't get done. So that's just the way that we just want to make sure that we're not building a company because we just know people, or building a company because we are what it says on the tin. And you know that when you work with us, it's not like an influencer running a business. It's even though that's great, it's like this is actually like people that are like empathetic but dangerous. That's what I want.
We haven't mentioned what
Iconic. Yeah.
is, so let's just say that.
Yeah.
So Iconic is a venture studio, and in very simple terms, it's a startup that funds other startups, right? So the cool thing about
Including
it,
Butterfly Effects.
yeah, including Butterfly Effect. So they're a minority shareholder in Butterfly Effect, but really we work together as a team. So I think the cool thing about it is we're all just learning as it goes along. We're trying to do something that's really, really hard, right? They're a startup, we're a startup. We're all helping each other out. We're all swapping notes where we can. And gradually we're just building all of these things together. So I was employee number 14 there. So I like Kobe and Gymshark number was 24. And I like Thierry Henry and this is number 14. So
Hey,
There you go.
hey,
look at that.
we'll see what happens.
The numbers are right.
Numbers are right.
And so what's your role there? You
I'm
mentioned that.
Chief Community Officer. So a lot of the brands that they're funding and starting are within the tech space, the gaming space, and community is a big part of that. How do we make sure that from the products we build to the way that we come to market to the way that we actually distribute our brand messaging, that's all done with community at the center of everything that we do. And that's my job there. And then like in terms of the execution of it, my team does that, right? So it's like it's just a really great, like I've never seen a model like it. And it's just fun. It reminds me of when I was back at university. We're just learning from a lot of great people, and everyone's there to see each other like win. So they've been really helpful. The Iconic team, like I think that I had to almost like level up in terms of like understanding like the finance world, the investment world, and that's actually a space that's really exciting me right now. I'm like, you know what, like the marketing world is great, and I'm doing great. But I'm like, and this is a hint to like the next chapter. I'm like, why don't we can go into this space. Some really cool stuff.
Good. A little teaser there.
Cryptic.
Episode part 2 coming at some point in the future.
If you could bring together key people within your industry to discuss the most challenging topic you see is important to solve, who would they be and what would be the topic?
I would want to bring together the most successful immigrants that I could find, just to talk about or help almost like rebrand the word immigrant, right? And showcase that actually being an immigrant is a superpower as opposed to a crutch. Because I believe that if you, and I was talking to the team off air, I was like, if anybody has the opportunity to be an immigrant, that will be the greatest thing to ever happen to you. It's difficult, it's blank canvas, but that's when you know who you are, right? And that's when you're forced out of your comfort zone and you're able to like be resourceful. I always say to people, and eventually again, I'm teasing what we're going to be doing next, if you, when I look at a founder or something like that, because I learned a thing or two about great founders, right? If starting this business is going to be the hardest thing you've ever done or the hardest things you've experienced, I know this is going to be really tough for you. Starting from scratch, when no one knows you, you don't know the language, and you have to just like live, that's difficult. So business is hard because of the nature of business, but that can't be the toughest thing you've done or the toughest thing you're going to do, because it gets really tough. And if you're not used to tapping into that gear, you'll find it really challenging, right? And like me working 18-hour days, 17-hour days, I don't even talk about it because it's just natural, right? Now my wife does exactly the same thing. We'll like have 3 hours or 2 hours where we chill out, and the rest are just working. But it's just the way that we are because we're immigrants. We know no different. So I would like to bring together the most successful immigrants from Arnold Schwarzenegger to like everybody else in between, and just talk about like normalizing their journey and giving like the thing that made them get to where they got to empower anybody else to adopt exactly the same thing. Because I think that if we all thought and acted like immigrants, the world would be in a much better place.
Okay. Well, we've come to the end. We've heard the story of how you became co-founder and CEO of the Butterfly Effect. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing the journey.
Yeah.
We're going to end with a poem. I'm going to share a little bit of what I think the biggest lessons from you, what I learned a lot from you, is that, if you want to really achieve something in life, you've got to put in the work. You've got to take the time and come up with a plan and a strategy. You've got to visualize. You've got to look at who's done it before. You've got to analyze how they did it. You've got to go, okay, how am I going to take what they did and implement it and put it into my life and actually do that? All of that is so easy to say on a podcast. It's so easy to think about, but actually doing it, actually carving out that weekend. No, I'm not going to go and watch the football with my friends. No, I'm not going to go out Friday night. In fact, and I might not do that for the next 3 years or whatever, or just taking that time to really put in the work, it gets results. And you're a living example of that. And I think it's a great story for people to hear, to be inspired by that and lead a different path. You think that everybody meets up and has a social time all the time, and that's what you should do and have to do. But actually, the ones who succeed are the ones who do go quiet, and they do go in and do the work, and they come out the other side. So it's just a mess of an inspiration to be prepared to do that, live life differently, to get different results.
Yeah, I was going to say, and we're going to go into the poem, which is probably going to get me again, like, in the fields. But, like, there's always, like, a Drake lyric for that I look to like, help me understand the world the way. I'm a big Drake fan. And he says something in a song where he goes, like, my friends are always out partying, and I'm just making the music that they party to. Right? And then there's like, party on, like I'm doing this thing, right? That is everything you said there, that's where I got that lyric, is that's just comes with the territory, right? Like, you'll make the thing that everybody wears, that everybody like everyone enjoys, but then you have the responsibility to be consistent. And like I was telling people, like, if you look at people like Drake and Kim Kardashian, LeBron James, all those people that have been successful for 15 years in the public eye, that is not easy. Like, people are still saying that Kim Kardashian has no talent. I'm like, what? The biggest talent is to convince the world that she doesn't have a talent. You can't be front of mind of the whole world for 15 years by accident. That does not happen. And I think that there's always things that are happening. Success leaves clues. And if you take the time to just study where success lives, you're real. And you don't, like, when people are watching the movie, you're looking at the credits, you're looking at the shots, you're looking at the different side that people aren't looking at. And like, the best producers in hip hop, they sample old music and they bring it to life. I like to look at different industries and say, how can I apply this to this? How can I put these two people together? Just take how I do business is I look at football, I look at music, I look at like culture, and I say, okay, this happened there. What does this mean here? And then I just try it. And if it fails, it fails. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. Right. And like, I think the thing that I would say that I was more proud of as Gymshark is that I put my job at risk every single day, and they kept me anyway. So that's basically what the legacy is, man.
Awesome. Love that. So many nuggets of gold. Thank you for sharing. We end with a poem that's been written as we go. It's pretty amazing.
Building on from a disappointment, going from nothing to becoming something. Used to a combination of shifting tectonic plates, challenges and changes, not just down to one thing. Inspired by the disruptors that have shaped the tech and social world that we live in. Then experiencing a breakthrough in career path. And that was where he first used LinkedIn. Moving from theorist to practitioner, he decoded the mind of a new and previously challenging audience, and he cracked it, leaving no room for error, keeping it 10 out of 10, and experimenting, employing winning tactics. To make a decision for yourself, you cannot sit on the fence. And now he creates a butterfly effect where diversity makes perfect business sense.
Bro, you need to send me that, man.
Yeah,
you need to send me that.
Thank you
was,
for joining us.
Oh man, like I said, everyone's been trying to get me to like shed a tear. Even like at my wedding, I was like, I cry inside, and like that was great, man. That was great. That was close.
Hey,
And that is, well,
I love that.
That's it. Let's go more. But do some more. More
No,
poems,
no,
more poems. We're close now. We're close.
Nah.
But thanks so much.
Thank
That
you
is
so
how you
much.
became CEO and co-founder of the Butterfly Effect.
I didn't even speak about my co-founder, Michael. He's
Honorable mention. Come
honorable
on, let's bring
mention.
Michael in.
Yeah, like just so he gets he's like he was also like when I first said I want to do so me and Michael, just a background on our history. When I was working for Gatecrasher Birmingham,
This goes back.
Yeah, he was also in the promo. He was in the promo team.
Did he make a LinkedIn account at that time?
No, he didn't. Maybe he did. I don't know.
Okay.
He was actually more advanced than me. But like he was handing out flyers for the nightclub. That was what we were doing, and getting data for like email marketing. That's where we started. Like we started off in the bottom of the marketing industry, handing out flyers in the winter nights. And then I went to Gymshark, and then he went to Social Chain, right? He was a founding team member of the Social Chain company. So we both did our thing, and now we've come back together. And the first person I called when I thought, you know what, I want to do this. I want to go the creative agency route because I feel like that's where we can solve a problem. He was the first one that said, it should be a creative house. And I was like, he gets it. And then that's the horse I rode in with, man.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love that. All right. Well, thank you for joining us, and let's see what happens next on your journey.
Yeah.
Thank you. I know this was a long podcast, so I hope I didn't bore everybody.
They're still here, don't we?